to put Bishop on the prayer list. She has to have her knee replaced, so she's a little nervous about it. But we know God is able. Okay? We know God is able. So before I get started, and this is my daughter Alyssa. Everybody? Thank you. That's right. Okay. Is it? We're having wardrobe issues.
Just too much blame.
Yeah, they are. Well, at least we will. I'll be a rebel. Rebel with a cause. Yeah. There you go. Thank you. All right, please be careful. All the way from Seattle. All right, appreciate it. Now, this is very exciting because I really don't know what God's gonna do with this thing. I really don't, and I'm definitely a A-type person. My full name is Sharnette Denise. Okay, but you call me Nettie, and I love it, and that's what I like. Sharnette is way too formal. I really don't know what God is gonna do with this because there's so many different facets of my life that I would like to share and get out, not for any other reason but to strengthen, okay? To strengthen, to encourage, to empower. That is the purpose of me sharing, all right? So first of all, this is not about me. It's more about what God has done through me as a reluctant participant, okay? So let's just get it straight. I am a reformed prodigal who has come to know Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I was brought up in church. I was brought up Pentecostal and Baptist. You can't get no more holy than that. Okay? Howbeit it ever, I knew churchese, but I did not know relationship. Okay? So through all the damage that was in my family, through all the challenges, I grew up in an abusive home with a lot of violence. My earliest memories of my mother getting beat up. It's a lot of things. And what we need to understand is that as people are coming to us and as Calvary is opening the doors, as the Lord is expanding our territories, everyone does not have a clean-cut testimony. So don't shy away from people who do not. And the only reason why I'm sharing this part is because it's going to fuel the rest of our discussion, okay? Because I was a product of a teenage relationship. I was raised with my grandparents. My mother had a shotgun wedding. And my stepfather, who rejected me later, went off to Nam, got hooked on drugs because our guys did not get help. There was still a lot of racism and prejudice in America. He came back and he took it out on my mom. Okay, so then as a sanctuary, I would run over to my neighbors, and my neighbor had a brother, and I was having sex in an elementary school because I didn't know what was happening, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it because my mother would be so shut down and closed from the trauma that she was experiencing. I was under 10 years old. So now what does that do? Well, one of the first things, let me back up. One of the first things that I noticed in Calvary was how much women submit here, how much they rely on the male population, how much they talk to the male population. And you have to understand, that was foreign to me. I didn't understand that. I had to get myself together to keep it moving forward because there was no other choice. I had to learn at a very young age how to put a face on, continue to get my grades, continue to do all the things that I was supposed to do and expected to do as a child, not even talking about the things that were going on in my home. Okay? It was different. So when you come to tell me that I have to come and believe in a God that I cannot see, and I have to rely on a Lord that I do not know, then that's foreign to me. When you say submission means that you're giving somebody else your power. And I always thought it was a form of weakness for a woman to give away her power. I just gave you a little bit of my background, not a whole bunch of it. I don't share it because, I want to shock you. I'm sharing it so that you understand something. Some of you all are like, she's totally A-type. She's very strong in her personality. You're absolutely right. But that's because I've had to be. And the Lord Jehovah God, for him to be able to come in and say that I still want you, I still love you, I still need you, I am the king of broken things, I have things for you to do. That was amazing. That was life-changing to me. I didn't learn that sitting up in church. I learned that you had to wear pantyhose, you couldn't wear red lipstick. Your head had to be covered. You better come in at curfew. I learned a lot of bad things, but what I did not learn, and I heard a lot of good sermons. I'm not bashing anybody. Okay, so let's make sure we understand. I was with other broken people who were also finding their way. Okay? Now, I will tell you that when I started having a relationship with God, because I didn't feel the need, my house was broken. You're going up to church every Sunday like everything is everything, but you're up here getting your tail whooped. And yet I'm supposed to just be okay with that and go to church every Sunday. Absolutely not. Yeah. I was hardened, I was bitter, I was angry. I was a lot of things, and we were not allowed to go outside of our house and talk about what was going on. Yeah. That was unacceptable. Okay? Eventually my mom got out of that toxic relationship, moved on and married my stepfather, Paw. Okay? And Miles, my son, is named after his granddad, Paw. So that lets you know the relationship that we have been able to forge. Okay? So why am I telling you these things? Because it sets the tone for why I was so hard, so rebellious, so resistant to God. Because you let me hurt. And if you're God, then why would you let this thing happen to me? Okay? All I heard about was what the good girls did in church. Well, I felt dirty. And I could not tell anybody what was going on because I still would rather go over and be molested than sit in the house and listen to my mother get hit. Those were my choices in elementary school. Eventually, we moved. My mom, like I said, got out of that relationship, met my stepfather, who was my dad. Okay, they've been married 40 years, all right? And we moved all around the country because he was a very successful man and he followed the money, all right? So I was expected to come out of the city. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is about 2 hours outside of Detroit. So I'm expected to come out of the city, go into the county, learn to mingle with y'all. You took me out of the city and into suburbia. And I am supposed to adjust. I learned about Italian food. I learned about Chinese food. Okay, I learned about the Jewish population. I learned about a great many things. And I also learned that I had talent. But yet that darkness was never dealt with. Yeah. That anger was never dealt with. That brokenness was never dealt with. Okay, so outside of, dipping in drugs, promiscuity, you name it, openly rejecting God. I did it. But you know what brought me back? I met Anthony. Two broken people, because his father was an abusive alcoholic. Two broken people that came out of these families that decided, you know what, we're going to try to make this work. And it wasn't, now look, we didn't get married and then all of a sudden I'm, oh, Jesus, hallelujah. I'm married now. I feel like I'm worthy because, people who have experienced trauma at a young age always have to prove themselves. Okay, once you understand what's been taken from you, you always have to prove that you're better, that you earned it, because you don't know how to accept it. Okay? It wasn't like that. Anthony and I fought like cats and dogs. We were like Tasmanian devils. We were horrible. But we knew that the Lord hated divorce. So we had faltered along. And eventually, Elon Michael came along, our first son, older than Miles. He's already in heaven. And that was the beginning of our breaking, was the death of our son. Because in all the things that I was trying to hold, and all the things that I was trying to have control over, because I was afraid, I didn't understand. And I just felt like, well, you're not here, I have to do it myself. I don't see you. I believe you parted the Red Seas. I believe you did everything that you said you did with Moses. I even love the prayers my alcoholic grandfather gives on Easter. It's wonderful. But that's where you stay, God. Everything else Monday through Saturday is me. It's mine. I have to control it. Why? Because I can't take disappointment and hurt. So I can't trust. It's just easier for me to hold on to my brokenness like this, because my brokenness, I understand, and I can try to control. You can't control that. You can't. When Elon died, one of the things the Lord told me was, if you have so much control, call for him to get up. Point blank. You know how Jesus is like, okay, I healed you, get up and get your bed and walk? He knew he could not be tender like that with me. He knew what he had already permitted. He knew what he had already allowed and the hardness that was already in me, but he also knew how that sassiness, how that gripping, how that grit, how that perseverance was also going to serve his kingdom. Because God looks ahead and he knows everything, does he not? Okay, that's part of his name, yes? He's omniscient, correct? Okay, so the scripture that I want to pull on today is out of Romans 8. It's very familiar to all of us, okay? There's actually two. Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. For him he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his son, not to the image of Shernette, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom did he predestine, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also glorified. Okay? And also over in Isaiah 26:3, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Okay? Well, you got to learn the Lord first before you can start trusting in him. Right? How did I start learning the Lord? Because he took from me what I could not control. He took from me what I could not hold on to. I can't sustain life. We're women. We're moms. Many of us have carried babies. But that's all we can do. We're vessels. We can't control what they do when they come out of our womb. And as I would learn later, you can't control what happens in your womb. You are a vessel. Nothing more, nothing less. So my trusting came with my breaking. Once I understood that I had no control and control was an illusion. Now, it took some more time because, I'm hard-headed. Comes with the territory. That's just, I learned slow. All right? But by the time Miles got here, then you had autism. Okay? You can't control how you're going to make your family. Right? By the time Nathan got here, I was in the womb and I had several surgeries with Nathan before he even came to work. I was asked to abort Nathan because he was going to be disabled. And I said, by then, I had knew that I needed to stand up for my child. And I did. I knew when I got pregnant with Alyssa, even though it was out of wedlock, that I needed to stand up for my child. Nobody could tell me to go and have an abortion because abortion wasn't the answer. I had already been down that path. And all it led me was to more brokenness, more anger, more disappointment, more depression, more just, I'm going to go to hell, because nobody was able to come alongside me and say, you don't have to choose this path. Yeah, you messed up. Yeah, you screwed up. But guess what? God still loves you. Nobody came alongside me and did that. So I thought, since you went this road, okay, using your power of choice, Eve. Oh, I'm talking real to you. All right. Because I'm not ashamed. Because God has died for me. And everything that I've done is under the blood. So I can stand here and I can talk to you with confidence. Because I know that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And I have a purpose. And I am loved. So whatever foundation I did not get as a little girl, I got it now. And that's what matters. Okay? So by the time I had to tell my daddy that I was pregnant with her, and he says, now look, we church-going people. Do you need money for an abortion? I said, absolutely not. Well, how are you going to, because of the practicality of his nature, we're all growing. My dad's a very practical man. He said, well, you can't afford it. You have no skills. Because I ran in my hurt. That's all I did was waste my time. Running in my hurt, trying to find the next new thing that would make me feel good. Knowing that it was only Jesus, but running from Jesus because obviously it's got to be something else. I done seen people up in church and I don't want to be like that. Because I didn't have a relationship with God. Now, fast forward. Y'all keep it up? I was able to stand and fight for Alyssa, and I tell you what, she's called their child, not grandchild. They absolutely love that baby. And she was a blessing, as all children are, no matter how they were conceived. Okay, now let's move back over to Nathan. I told Julie, one of the things that I was trying to do was figure out what God was going to do, because I don't like surprises, because I got to know everything. That's part of the fear he's breaking me from. Okay, you fear because when you don't know, it's usually something bad. Okay, you fear because when you have a relative show up at your school to tell you got to get on another bus, it's because your mom has gotten the garbage beat out of her and you can't go home. You fear because you don't know if your granddad is drunk, if there's a rage, if there's what's happening at the house. You don't know. You don't have that structure, that foundation that when I go home, my mom's going to be here and everything is going to be everything. That wasn't my way, okay, at all. That's why you fear. So I need to break your fear. Fast forward Nathan, that thing. Nathan started having, we started our journey having surgeries together in the womb while we were still connected, right? Yes. By the time he got out and I gave birth to him, he wasn't crying. I did not hear him. I heard nothing of a newborn. And the next thing I know, I am being put out because I'm starting to panic because I've delivered this boy, and yet I don't hear a baby crying. When I wake up, I have to speak to a specialist who tells me that we cannot treat your child here. He's beyond what we're able to do. So we had to go to a different hospital. So here I had an emergency C-section. Alyssa's having to push me around in a wheelchair. What are you like? 10? What are y'all, 9 years apart? 10 years apart? 10. So she's pushing me around in a wheelchair because I haven't even seen Nathan's face. I want to see what he looks like. So I finally get to see him, and he's deformed. And I just remember what God had told Alyssa was that he was going to give her 2 more brothers, and those she could keep. And I remember, and I held on to that, what that little girl had said. And I was like, but if God promised 2 more brothers, and I'm looking at this baby who's all deformed, then is there another baby? No, it's Nathan. Through Nathan, I learned the power of God. I learned that he didn't remove autism. He didn't remove the disability. He put me in places with the autism, with the disability, so that I could shine for him, because he gave me an audience in places that I would never be. I wouldn't be in the emergency room at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning if he hadn't gotten sick with his disability, and then I got to comfort and witness Jesus to somebody else while I'm over here getting a cup of coffee in the lobby. He used Nathan as an instrument to put me in front of people that make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars while they're up here telling me what is going on with my son, and I tell them, yeah, but God. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but God. When you tell me that there's no more antibiotics that he can use because he's went through all of them, and so we don't know, and you need to prepare for his burial, but God. To the point so that I would have a physician come up and tell me, Nathan, I know your mother, now he's a baby. I told Nathan, I was standing by his crib, I know your mother's a praying woman, and she's gonna pray for you, and I know it's gonna be all right. What? I don't even know if you know God, but I know you did through me because you saw what I did for my son. So when I say that all things work together, the breaking, the hurt, God doesn't waste anything, okay? He uses it for his glory. And now I understand that. Relationship-wise, all the things that we go through in our relationships with our children, with our spouses, with our coworkers, with our sisters and brothers, with our family members, with people here. It doesn't matter where the hurt comes from, how deep it is, how horrible it is, okay? God uses it for his glory. He uses it for his good. And unless you get into your word and understand the names of Jehovah and understand that he performs his name, then you would not know that. You would think that God is selfish and self-centered and that he's playing a game with you. And what is he doing this for? No, that's not it at all. You have to understand that the plan that he has is way bigger than the hurt that you're going through. The plan that he has, your hurt is going to minister to other people. But you can't properly minister if you ain't been through it yourself. Period. And if you haven't been through it, then how you going to come up and talk to somebody? I can't look at you and you ain't never been through nothing. The hardest thing you've been through is Starbucks, sat there and got your order wrong. And that's the most challenge you've had. And yet you want to talk to me about hurt? Give me a break. Give me a break. You cannot talk to me about what it is to be a woman and how sex with your husband is supposed to be, even though you didn't experience it like that, if you hadn't gone through some of the hurt that I've already been through. You can't minister to me. You can't help me in that area because I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to listen because you don't understand the pain of having to put your mind where it needs to be because you're now in a relationship where God will bless, and this is an act of communication, love, and responsibility and trust, and yet everything that you've done for the last 30 years is the opposite of that. You can't talk to me about that, but somebody else who's been through what I've been through or close to it can.
Yeah.
You cannot talk to me about carrying a baby, feeling that life, and then having to voluntarily give up that child because you're a minor and somebody said that you had to, when they didn't address the pain and the reason why you got into that situation in the first place. You cannot. But I can march with pro-life. I can fight with everything that's in me because I've seen a child die. I've given up children. I can say that this is not the end. You can only make decisions in the right now, but God sees everything. That's why his name is I Am. The past, the present, and the future is all the same. So don't act in your hurt. I can minister to these girls. Yeah, it cost me something. Yeah, I got to bear some things. Yeah, I got to share stuff that I really don't want to share. But it's the blood of Christ that has saved me, that I know that he loves me, that he sings, that he rejoices over me, that he says because she calls out on my name, I'm going to come see about her. That is the confidence that I can walk in. And I couldn't walk in that confidence had he not delivered me from the things that I experienced earlier. Remember, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Period. And your breaking, I will share this, will only be as hard as you make it. The sooner you yield to the Lord, the sooner you can move on. But if you don't move on, he will keep you there until you do what you're supposed to do, which is to submit to his will. That's what he wants from us. That's the strongest thing that we hope is our will. I am woman, hear me roar. You're absolutely right. You can carry a king, you can groom a king, you can love a king. Can't nobody else do that. As a woman, you can. Why do you think Satan is after us so much? Because we influence the world with our nurturing, with our care, good mother or bad mother, good wife or bad wife. We influence those who make decisions. We influence those who are going to stand and be future high priests over households. We influence that. So if the devil can get us off filter, right, and continue a pattern of brokenness and hurt, then guess what? He has several generations, not just ours.
Oh, gosh, that's so
Okay? If God allowed me to be molested, now I'm not saying this is a good thing by any means. It's traumatic, it's horrible. Okay? But he allowed it so that I would be able to minister to someone else. Then, yeah, it was a horrible thing, but he used it. Did he not? Okay. He also allowed it so that I would know him better on how he heals hurt. Because that's a deep hurt, to have something like that taken from you. That is a very deep hurt. Only Jesus can heal you. Only Jesus can calm that anger and that mistrust. Only Jesus can set it up so that you will continue to trust him, love him, and then guess what? When you finally let him bless you with a husband, this was my testimony, okay? Then, even though you're bringing your brokenness into the relationship, eventually you're going to yield because you've already started to let him address your hurt. Yes? Okay. As you know, Nathan has had a lot of surgeries. I'm going to go back. Y'all all right? Okay, I know it's heavy, but it is what it is. Okay. Nathan is now 19, doing some great and wonderful things. Does that change his autism? No, it doesn't. Sometimes do I look at him at Miles and I wonder, what are they going to miss out on? Yes, I do. Do I sometimes hate autism? Sometimes I get really angry about it. I get tired. I get upset. I feel like I'm just exhausted sometimes. But I know that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And that he holds me. That he loves me. That he is my righteousness. That he's coming back. That I get to live with him forever. So I can move forward. I can go on even though I don't want to. Even though sometimes I get very, very tired and I get exhausted. The Lord is my righteousness. He is my king. He is my shepherd. He is the lover of my soul. He is my sustainer. How would I know these things had I not submitted to him earlier so that he could prepare me for the rest of the journey? God wastes nothing, including your hurt. And sometimes that's just a platform that you're going to get to know him a little bit more better.
Right. That's true.
Nothing more, nothing less. And he doesn't look at our hurt and just brush it off. He doesn't. It's a dual thing. It's a dual. You know how God's word will hit a whole bunch of places? Okay? And resonate in a whole bunch of places? You think it's hitting this, but he's like, because he's God. Having these children have humbled me and pressed me into the need for God. Because I can't control. I can't hold on to. I just can't. But through him, I can do all things. Through Christ who strengthens me, including sitting up here talking me up. This stuff today, that it hurts, and it still hurts, but it doesn't hurt as much as it did. And now I don't have to go look for drugs and alcohol to try to save my hurt, because I've already spent time with the Lord of heaven that said, I will give you strength. Be strong and be courageous. Have I not told you to be strong and courageous? I am with you. I am holding your right hand, a place of honor. So that when you go and you move forward and you talk about these painful things, it will minister to people on a level that people are not ministering to. Just don't let your head knowledge get in the way. Let me do what I'm going to do. You just stand up. You are a willing vessel, and that's all I need is your obedience and your submission. Well, now I can submit to an unseen God because I feel him, and I know he's real. And I know his word is real. Now I can submit and be a Jesus freak. And don't care. Yeah, I still lose my temper. Yeah, I still get mad. Yeah. I still have to ask for forgiveness from my mouth sometimes. Absolutely. Absolutely. But the more I grow in him, the more I see the need. The more thankful I am. The more I can say, God, you know what? I'm really sorry for doing that, because I remember back in the day, whoo, that would have been me. We just didn't record all the stuff we did. Thank God. Thank God, because that would have been a hot mess. But he didn't leave me. He didn't forsake me. When I was smoking that stuff, drinking that stuff, sleeping with that person, I had no business doing. He never left me because he said, she's going to be my champion. She's going to get up and she's going to talk for me. She's going to get up and go to places that y'all won't go because you don't have to, because you didn't have the background that I did. But it's okay. All of us, like the different cells in the body, have a purpose. And one purpose is not more important than another purpose. They all work together. We're all the bride of Christ. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I encourage you to continue to be strong, continue to be courageous, but also in your darkest hour and your deepest hurt, that you will give it over to the Lord, because he doesn't waste it. He doesn't waste it at all. I remember my grandmother, and I'll close with this, but she would make a pie, make a crust and stuff. And she would take those little pieces of that leftover crust after she did whatever she was going to do, and she would trim her pie out and make decorations on the pie with it. She didn't waste anything. She knew that I could use this for something, right? Well, that's God. He uses everything for his good once you're his child. But that's the condition. You have to surrender to him. Because if you're not going to surrender, then you still going to experience hurt. You still going to go through the thing. But now you don't have the God of heaven in front of you, holding a banner over you, singing over you. You cannot take advantage of his promises. You can't do none of that because you have not decided to surrender. But you still going to go through. Period. I suggest you do. But you do what you do. I had to get to that point too. And I understand. I totally understand it. But I understand much more better that we're only making it harder for ourselves when we don't. Test him at his word. Not being disrespectful because he's a king. Test him at his word. Lord, I'm going to trust your word. I don't know nothing about you. And really, I halfway don't even want to believe you for real. I don't want you to be right. I'm pretty sure I can find another way to do this. I'm just being honest. And you trying to outweigh an infinite God. Who do you think is going to break first? You or God? Can't nobody break God. Duh. Just remember, all things work together. Okay? In your struggles, all things work together. In the bad news, all things work together. Well, you want to put a pillow over your husband's head. And you like, I don't even understand what's going on with you right now. All things work together. When you have that one child that you're just like, oh, if I could use the force and I could just, all things. That one coworker, that one this, they one that. I don't know what your Goliath is. You do. Okay? But the God that we serve is the same. All things. My autism is not going away. Some of you all have had the privilege of sending your kids off and having an empty house. I don't have an empty house. I don't want an empty house. All things work together for the good. My girlfriend called me, and we're still close, and she's like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to do this for my such and such birthday." I was like, "Yeah, I'll probably be at Chuck E. Cheese." Or Dave and Buster's. Or doing something else. All things. Even in your hurt. Even in the breaking. Even in the, Lord, I just can't. All things. And when you have that, that is your joy. That is your strength. The word of the Lord is what keeps you going. Okay? But you got to put something in there in order for him to bring it up. That's your job. Like Pastor Tim said, you got to get up, tie your shoes, put your clothes on. You got a part to play in this. I didn't even know that he was going to have me do this. I wrote this in my journal like last month. About the breaking. About how he uses things. Because he doesn't change our circumstances a lot of times. Sometimes he's just in the fire with us. But we have to go in the fire. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, orange look good on me. Thank you.